to Michigan and the NCAA. Uh-oh. So negotiations on a resolution to an investigation into the Wolverines' recruiting practices that could result in a 4-game suspension of Coach Jim Harbaugh. This is all surrounding recruiting talks during the COVID dead period. A lot of teams got busted on that. So I'll kind of run through if he were to serve that 4-game suspension. The games that he would miss would be East Carolina, Bowling Green, UNLV, and Big Ten opponent Rutgers. So the thoughts on the situation and would it affect Michigan's season? Like I said, this is not the first team to get busted on this. This is kind of for me a join the group type of thing. As we've seen LSU, Tennessee, Air Force, and there's been more schools, but those are kind of the main schools that have been hit pretty hard on the recruitment issues during that COVID dead period. And there's definitely going to be a lot more to come out in the coming years, I imagine. Still, though, I'm not kind of going to justify it. You'd never want to see anything like this in NCAA. You never want to see recruiting issues and, people cheating the system in a certain way. COVID dead period, that's a weird one, so I'm not going to hold, some light to it or nothing, like some bad light to it. Like, every team and everyone's looking for a slight edge, especially NCAA, when you got the juggernauts like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. You got these squads that are racking in talent every single year. You gotta compete in some way, so you look for a certain edge. So I'm not gonna be some guy that's gonna be like, oh, you're terrible, I will never support Michigan or LSU or Tennessee or Air Force and all these teams. It's like, these teams are going to get busted. This has been a thing that's happened for a long time, and it won't stop. The NCAA has to come down on these teams, and it happens. So, when it comes to the season for Michigan, let's get off of that topic. When it comes to the season, I don't. No, there's Mamba. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to stop for a second, y'all. When it comes to the season, though, I do not imagine they will lose any of those 4 games. Looking at those opponents when it comes to East Carolina, Bowling Green, UNLV, and Rutgers, I don't think Michigan will have a problem with those teams without Jim Harbaugh. But when it comes to later in the season, that's when I think we could see the impact of that suspension. Because, yeah, they're probably going to be 4-0 after those 4 games. But what losing a coach is like, and I'm not going to act like I'm some locker room expert. I mean, I've never really been in one, but I can't imagine losing a coach for 4 games in a season, and also for a Big Ten opponent, is good for your team, And I know they'll probably be resilient, but when you look at the teams that they face later in the season, Michigan State, Penn State, obviously Ohio State. There's some other teams in there that can give them a run for their money. I think that's when it catches up to the team. Even though Michigan is talented, I like their squad, I like their roster. But seeing something like this, it's hard to overcome. It's hard to overcome later in the season because you build that camaraderie, whatever the word is. You build that, that group environment over the season, and when you're tested early on, like just say if that Rutgers games is close and Jim Harbaugh's not there to pull it through for them, give them motivation or something. It's those are those moments that you miss out on when their coach is not there. So for me, I think it does impact the Michigan season in a pretty big way when it comes to facing a Michigan State, a Penn State, and Ohio State. Like, that's a tough break for Michigan fans. I don't want to look too much into missing 4 games, but for me, I mean, I have a hard time believing that they will just wax all those teams again this year. Not wax, but beat those teams again this year and be undefeated after losing your coach. And Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a coach, so losing a coach for 4 games, that's tough. That's tough. And yeah, I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but when it comes to those Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State, I find it hard to believe that they're going to win all 3 of those games. I don't know which one they'll lose. I'm going to put my money on the Ohio State game mainly because I don't even think I would have picked Michigan to beat Ohio State in the first place because Ohio State's they're good this year. I like McCord, their quarterback. They got a lot down on that squad. Harrison, stud, could be the second pick in the draft. So, overall, I think it does affect, the season that Michigan will have later on, instead of early on, like some people may think.